everyone. In this video, we will be explaining on what we have learned in Colreg. So with any further, let's get started. In Colreg Rule 1 Application A, rule shall apply to all vessels upon the high seas and in all water connected. There would be navigable by sea-going vessel. In Application B, in this rule, nothing can interfere with operation of special rule made by the appropriate authority for roadstead, harbor, rivers, lake, or waterways connected with the high seas and navigable by sea-going vessel. Such special rule shall conform as closely to this rule.
1. Application Part 3. Nothing in this rule shall interfere with the operation of any special rule made by the government of any state with respect to additional station or signal lights, ships or vessel signals for ships, war and vessels proceeding under convoy, or with respect to additional station or signal lights or ships or fishing vessels engaged in fishing as a fleet. These additional station or signal lights, ships or vessel signals shall, so far as possible, be such that they cannot be mistaken for any light, shape, or signal authorized elsewhere under this rule. Rule number 1, Part 4. Traffic separation scheme may be adopted by the organization for the purpose of these rules. Number 1, Application Part 5. Whenever the government concerned shall have determined that a vessel of special construction or purpose cannot comply fully with the provision of any of these rules with respect to the number, position, range, or arc of visibility of lights or shapes, as well as to the disposition and characteristics of sound signaling appliances, such as vessel shall comply with such other provision in regard to number of position, range, arc, visibility of lights or shapes, as well as to the disposition and characteristics of sound signaling appliances, as the government shall have determined to be the closest as possible.
Hi, good day everyone. Good day sir. I am Cadet JINKY ALCAREZ and I am about to present about the Colreg Rule number 2, which is the responsibility. So, Rule number 2 of the Colregs aims to provide a similar situation with the collision and regulation. So collision and regulation of Rule number 2, which is the responsibility, states that A. Nothing in this rule shall exonerate any vessel or the owner, master, or crew thereof from the consequences of any neglect to comply with these rules or of the neglect of any precaution which may be required in the ordinary practice of seamen or by the special circumstances of the case. And letter B. In constructing and complying with these rules, due regard shall be had to all dangers of navigation and collision and to any special circumstances, including the limitations of the vessels involved, which may make a departure from these rules necessary to avoid immediate danger. So first things first, let me unlock the word exonerate. So exonerate in dictionary means that it is to absolve someone from blame for a fault, and the simple meaning of this line is straightforward. We need to comply with the rules of the road. So in case of an accident that was resulted of someone not following the rules of the road, there could possibly be no excuse. But there is something more than that this line of Rule 2 implies. It does not just put the entire responsibility of the navigator on the bridge at the time of the accident. It involves the vessel, the ship owner, the master, and the crew of the ship. So, for example, the ship owner cannot have the difference in a collision incident that involves navigators of his ship not following the rules. It is also the general responsibility of the ship owner to ensure that a ship crew follows the rules of the road. Similarly, it is the responsibility of the master to ensure that his navigators follow the rules of the route. So rule number 2 covers the responsibility of the master and the owner crew to comply with the rules of the route, and it is the responsibility of the navigator at the scene to actually follow the rule of the route. So there is no escape in this responsibility, which is the ordinary practice of seamen. There is a lot of emphasis on this term in Rule 2, the ordinary practice of seamen. In simple words, this term just means common sense. Not every situation will be listed. The Colregs of Rule number 2 is just asking to use common sense when dealing with the situation. So here is the second example. Let us consider the overtaking situation where TSS are overtaking in another vessel. So rule number 13 requires that we can overtake the vessel from any of our sides, but precautions as per the ordinary practice of seamen suggest that we must overtake this vessel from her port side. This is because at the time of overtaking, she is most certainly going to alter her course to starboard. But let us assume we decided to overtake her from her starboard side, and which led to a collision. The bottom line that we need to follow Colregs, and there is no doubt about it, but while doing so, we also need to take precaution as required by the ordinary practice of seamen. So the first part of Rule 2 warns us about the consequences for not following the Colregs, and here is the second part of the same rule allowing us to violate the Colregs. But this is also the part that is incorrectly interpreted most of the times. The most common mistake that I see is we quote this part of rule on every occasion that we have difficulty taking action as required by the Colregs. So rule number 2b allows us to make departure from Colregs only to avoid immediate danger. So immediate danger is the important phrase here. So even in situation of immediate danger, it is not that we always have to take action contrary to what is expected as per Colregs. We need to take into account the dangers of navigation, such as fishing traffic on one side or shallow patch area on one side. After considering this danger, if it is necessary to make a departure from the Colregs, we can proceed. So in deciding if the departure from the rules is necessary, we also need to take into account the limitations of not only own vessel but other vessel too. All this part of Rule 2b is asking us to consider the limitation of the vessel when deciding if the departure from the Colregs would be the best possible way to avoid immediate danger. So Rule 2b only allows us to violate the Colregs to avoid only the immediate danger. For example, if you have altered your course to port to avoid immediate danger of collision with a VLCC, it does not mean that you can continue with evaluation with other nearby vessel too. The departure from the rules is allowed only for a brief period to avoid immediate danger. As soon as the danger is clear, you must come back to the Colregs compliance immediately. So let's move on to the conclusion. So Colreg's Rule 2 of responsibility is one of the most important rules. It sets the seriousness of the Colreg's compliance and warns about the consequences for non-compliance. Rule 2a requires that not only we need to comply with the Colregs, in doing so, we also need to take precautions so that we do not land in a situation where non-compliance with the Colregs is the only way to avoid danger. Another is that Rule number 2 of Colregs asks the seafarer to follow the rules of the route, but following the rules of the route cannot be an excuse for collision. In case of an incident that was resulted of someone not following the rules of the route, there could possibly be no excuse. Rule number 2 defines the most common situation and asks the seafarers to use their common sense to follow those rules as well as any peculiar situation that they may encounter. In other words, we must use the ordinary practice of seamen when complying with the Colregs. Rule 2b allows us to make departures from Colregs provided there is an immediate danger. After considering the limitations of the vessel, it is the best way to avoid immediate danger. After the immediate danger is clear, the vessel must return to comply with the Colregs with other vessels vicinity. So that was all about my topic, and these are the references during my research on my topic. Thank you. And once again, I am Cadet JINKY ALCAREZ of Colreg Rule number 2.
Rule number 3 of Colreg General Definitions. So, good afternoon guys. I'm Tech Cadet ALIÑO LORWEN KEIRT Gonzalez. And I'm here to discuss about Colreg Rule number 3. So, the first word is A. Vessel. The word vessel includes every description of watercraft, including non-displacement craft, WIG craft, and seaplanes, that is used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water, meaning all types of craft that float on water and are used as a means of transportation. Also included are crafts which do not displace water, such as hovercraft. A seaplane when on the water displaces water, so as long as it is on the surface of the water, it is considered as a vessel. All barges are also included since no propulsion system has been mentioned in this part of the rule. B. Power-driven vessel. The term power-driven vessel means any vessel propelled by a machinery. Means power here means that it is obtained from a machinery, such as diesel engines, from the smallest to the largest. Sailing vessels are not included as long as they are purely under sail. Vessels under oars are not also included. C. Sailing vessel. The term sailing vessel means any vessel under sail provided that propelling machinery, if fitted, is not being used. Meaning, sailing vessels of today rely on some form of machinery propulsion. That is when the wind is calm and the sailing vessel is not moving. The sailing vessels, or some of them, have provision for use of their main engine and propeller. So as long as this main engine on the sailing vessels is not used, they are termed as sailing vessels. The moment their main engine is started, they are termed as a power-driven vessels even if they hoist sails. D. Vessel engaged in fishing. The term vessel engaged in fishing means any vessel fishing with nets, lines, trawls, or other fishing apparatus which restricts maneuverability, but does not include a vessel fishing with trolling lines or other fishing apparatus which do not restrict maneuverability. Meaning, fishing vessels means vessels actually fishing and which, due to their equipment in the water, are unable to move away and keep clear of other vessels. So if the fishing vessel is not fishing or is using equipment which does not restrict their taking evasive action for safety, then they are not termed as a fishing vessels. The equipment as specified under the rules is nets, lines or long line tuna fishing, trawls, or other equipment which are similar. E. Seaplane. The term seaplane includes any craft designed to maneuver on the water, meaning an aircraft which in an emergency is landing or ditching in the water would not be termed as a seaplane. Only those planes which by their construction and purpose can safely land, take off, and maneuver to a pier or a jetty are called seaplanes. F. Vessel not under command. The term vessel not under command means a vessel which through some exceptional circumstances is unable to maneuver as required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. Meaning, here a vessel not under command means any vessel which, because of some reason, cannot keep out of the way of other vessels, like MA breakdown, and she cannot anchor steering through your launching a rescue boat or a lifeboat. G. The term vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver means a vessel which from the nature of her work is restricted in her ability to maneuver as required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. The term vessels restricted in their ability to maneuver shall include but not limited only to: first, a vessel engaged in laying, servicing, or picking up a navigation mark, submarine cable, or pipeline. Second is a vessel engaged in dredging, surveying, or underwater operations. Third, a vessel engaged in replenishment or transferring persons, provisions, or cargo while underway. Fourth is a vessel engaged in launching or recovery of aircraft. Fifth is a vessel engaged in mine clearance operations. Sixth is a vessel engaged in a towing operation, such as severely restricts the towing vessel and her tow in their ability to deviate from their course. H. Vessel constrained by her draft. The term vessel constrained by her draft means a power-driven vessel which, because of her draft in relation to available depth and width of navigable water, is severely restricted in her ability to deviate from the course she is following. Meaning, this is applicable to power-driven vessels, which because of their draft in comparison to the depth of water at that place is so great that she cannot alter to avoid a collision, since to do that they would be aground, or they would run aground. I. Underway. The word underway means that the vessel is not at anchor or made fast to the shore or aground. A vessel is underway even when she is stopped and making no way through the water. Meaning, this term is somewhat vague. The opinion has been held that a vessel which is intentional, anchored with a proper anchor, and intends to hold her position is anchored. But if the vessel had dropped her anchor to turn the vessel in a tide or is dredging, meaning that the anchor has been dropped underfoot and the vessel is being dragged or is under her own power, and also is steaming astern, or the anchor helps in keeping the bow in line. So then, in these cases, the vessel would not be termed as an anchor. J. Length and breadth. The words length and breadth of a vessel mean her length overall and the greatest breadth, meaning her LBP does not mean the length. Although length overall or LOA means the length of a ship measured from the foremost point of the stem or to the aftermost part of the stern. Breadth or B means the width of a vessel at the widest point. K. Vessels shall be deemed to be in sight of one another only when one can be observed visually from another. So it means the other vessel should be visible to the other vessel, meaning the vessel being observed should be capable of being seen with the observer's eye and not by any electronic device. This is so because the aspect of the vessel is very important. The human brain analyzes data from input more effectively than an electronic device. A change in other vessels' heading is very readily apparent when observing visually by electronic means. It has a time lag. L. Restricted visibility. The term restricted visibility means any condition in which visibility is restricted by fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorms, sandstorms, or any other similar causes. Meaning, restricted visibility may be caused by any of the above conditions and also by any other means. For example, the smoke from forest fires or volcanic eruption. In 2015, the Indonesian forest had drastically reduced visibility in the Malacca Strait some years back. M. Wing in ground or WIG craft. The term wing in ground or WIG craft means a multimodal craft which, in its main operational mode, flies in close proximity to the surface by utilizing surface effect action. So these are the references that I used during my presentation.